top 15 emptiest parts of the US. Before we do get into this, appreciate if you guys can hit that subscribe button. Let's check out the emptiest parts of America.
Howdy, it's Kyle with another geography video, this time counting down the 15 emptiest parts of the US.
Okay.
The places in the country where you have large areas with few, if any, people and few, if any, roads. So we're talking about true middle of nowhere. As you may have guessed, all 15 of these are in the western half of the U.S. There really isn't much true middle of nowhere in the eastern U.S.
Okay, yeah, you know what? When I see like population maps and stuff to do with America, like the east is very, very populated. And then even though like the states are bigger, like in the west, least popular.
Back east, you're never that terribly far from the nearest road or house or some sign of civilization. But I do want to quickly mention a couple of the spots back east that are middle of nowhere before I get to this countdown.
Right.
Northwestern Maine is the most middle of nowhere you're going to find back east. There are very few people that live there and very few roads. Okay. Everglades National Park in South Florida is another spot where there are no people. And
wait, look at that. What are they? Are they They're not cobwebs. No, they're not cobwebs. What are they? They look weird.
And no roads, just a bunch of swampy land. And northeastern Minnesota, there's a lot of lakes, a lot of open areas, and really not many people or many roads. But those three spots are the closest thing you're going to get to true middle of nowhere in the eastern U.S. And if you're thinking that Texas or the southeastern U.S. are country or rural, let's look at it in this perspective. Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming combined have 3 million people, and it's about the same size as Texas and Oklahoma combined.
Wow.
Texas and Oklahoma have 32 million people. It's also the same size as Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana.
Yeah, so those states are similar to the other states in size, but Texas and Oklahoma has 10 times the people, bro. That's actually crazy.
Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia combined, which have a total population of 30 million. So put that in perspective, there are so few people that live in the interior West. It's so much more remote, so much more empty and barren, and it's a lot more country and rural than anything you're going to get in the eastern West. My personal definition of middle of nowhere is somewhere where you don't have a phone signal, somewhere where you won't hear a train in the distance at all, somewhere where there's no services whatsoever,
no houses, right? Barely any roads, maybe.
And also where there are no ranches and farms, just true open wilderness.
Right.
There are several reasons why these places are true wilderness. They might be very inaccessible with high elevation or perhaps extreme temperatures. The soil might be really bad to where you can't grow any crops or graze animals. There might be no water at all, or for those few spots back east, too much water. But enough of this intro stuff. Let's get to the countdown. At number 15 is northeastern California. In an area about the size of Rhode Island, there are only about 10,000 people. And most people know California for having the most people of all states.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Wait, is this the place where there's only 10,000 people? Hey, those 10,000 people enjoy nature, man.
With about 40 million, but most of the state's pretty empty, actually. So if you were to put California along the East Coast, the amount of space it takes up on the East Coast, there'd be over 60 million people. So if you think California is really crowded, it really isn't, especially when you consider the fact that 20 million of the people in California live just in the LA area. So California is mostly empty, and the northeastern corner of the
Wait, that's actually mad to think about, because when I think about California, I think it's very crowded, but that's just the LA area. But so other than LA, California is pretty empty. Wow.
State is one of the emptiest parts of the state. At number 14 is northwestern Colorado. This isn't the part of the state that most people think of when they think of Colorado. This isn't where you have the super high mountains with all the ski resorts. This isn't where you have all the 14,000 foot plus mountains. Just kind of high desert, really. There are some beautiful mountains there, but this isn't a very well traveled part of the state. And it's also not a part of the state where many people live. At number 13 is north central Nebraska. And when you think of Nebraska, this probably isn't the part of the state you're thinking of. These are the sandhills. There's no cornfields there, no ranching, and virtually no farms. With it being sand, you can't really grow any crops or graze animals.
Wait, so this is all sand? You know what's crazy? Like, I know we're going to get to the end of this video, and we're just going to see so many different types of environments in America. It's so cool to see, because like me being from the UK, we pretty much kind of got the same vibe the whole entire through the UK. Like, yeah, we got like the country a little bit, which is a little bit more hilly, but that's about it. Whereas like in America, Bro, you have so many different environments. It's crazy.
Animals, there's virtually no water there at all. So it's just a bunch of empty landscape. And
really cool to see.
The scenery isn't spectacular, but I do think it's very beautiful in a very subtle way. But yeah, north central Nebraska, really empty. At number 12 is southeastern Utah. And for me personally, this is the most beautiful scenery in the entire country. I love all the national parks and national monuments, the canyons, the sandstone formations, the arches.
They're cool.
And with all the parks there, you do have a lot of visitors during the high season, but there are very few people that live there. And even in the busy national parks, all you got to do is hike a few miles and you're away from all people, away from all civilization. But southeastern Utah, really empty. At number 11 is north central Washington. And of all the places on this countdown, this is the only one that I haven't actually been to. So I'm looking at some of the scenery. It looks really gorgeous. And I'm just basing this on the size of the area and how...
You know what? It actually is... It blows my mind sometimes. You know when I see like trees on these kind of hills? Like, how did they not just roll down? Like, how did the trees not just fall down? You know what I mean? Like, look at this, mate. It stays strong. That's some strong roots right there.
Looking at some of the numbers, it's not very well traveled. It's just pretty inaccessible. Not very many roads, very few small towns. I think my next road trip has to include north central Washington. It's beautiful. It's also really empty. Kicking off the top 10 is the Mojave Desert. It's primarily in southeastern California, but there are portions of it in Nevada and Arizona as well. And even though there are 2 interstates that run right through it, it's still mostly empty. There are very few roads, most of which are dirt, and really no towns at all. There are a few spots where there's a cluster of houses you might be able to call a community, but no real towns. You can drive for well over an hour in this area and not pass through anything that's been developed by humans. It's just really open, barren desert. So if you want to see some true emptiness out in the big old desert, check out.
Do you reckon like this would be a perfect place for like military bases? Do you reckon there's any secret military bases here?
Out the Mojave. At number 9 is the Sonoran Desert of southwestern Arizona. And whereas the Mojave Desert is higher elevation, you have a lot more Joshua trees. In the Sonoran Desert, it's much lower elevation, you have a lot more cacti. So a lot of people think of the desert scenery, they're thinking of Sonoran Desert. And it's pretty open. And a lot of it is actually an Air Force bombing range. You're certainly not going to be visiting.
Wait, what in the cacti inception is going on here? Why is there so many coming from one? Can they grow like this? I thought a cactus, right? It's just like just one and it's got a few arms coming off. What is this, mate?
But there are some desert national monuments you can visit, such as Sonoran Desert or Organ Pipe Cactus. So these are some great...
Yeah. Look at this. Look at this. I thought they all grew like this.
Spots to visit if you want to see some true low elevation, open, barren desert. At number 8 is west central New Mexico. This is the part of the state that's south of I-40, west of I-25, and north of Silver City. This isn't a terribly inaccessible part of the country. The elevations aren't really high. The temperatures aren't really extreme. It's just there are very few people that live there and very few roads that go through the region. And what also makes it so remote is that there aren't many visitors there either. There are no national parks or national monuments. There are some wilderness areas and national forests, but those aren't big draws for tourists. So west central New Mexico is one of my favorite parts of the entire country, partly because it is so empty. At number 7 is simply Montana. It's hard to pick a part of the state that's really empty because the whole state's pretty empty.
Wait, we're not doing a part of the state, we're doing a whole state here? What, is Montana really that empty?
It's a huge state with only 1 million people, the vast majority of which live along one of the interstates that goes through the state.
1 million people there. It's like 3 times bigger than the UK. Wait, how much bigger than the UK is Montana? It's gotta be at least like 2.5, right? At least.
The vast majority of which live along one of the interstates that goes through the state or near Glacier National Park. And it isn't all mountains either. A lot of folks think that Montana is going to be all high mountains, but there's a lot of high plains and rolling hills in the state. It's all very beautiful, but it is also very empty. But yeah, Montana, not much there, not many people, really beautiful, really empty. And along those same lines, at number 6 is Wyoming. It's not quite as large as Montana, but for an area the size of New York and Pennsylvania combined, there's a total population of 600,000 in the entire state.
Yeah, you know what I've heard from you guys a lot, actually? And this is why you say it, isn't it? Because Wyoming is so big, and I've seen pictures of Wyoming. It looks beautiful, right? But the population is only 600,000, right? A lot of people I've seen said, does anybody know anyone that lives in Wyoming? Yo, if you live in Wyoming, let me know in the comments.
It's the least populated state in the entire country. And just like Montana, the vast majority of the people that live there live along one of the interstates that goes through the state or in the northwestern corner near the national parks.
Right.
I mean, you can drive for hours on the back roads through the state and really not go through anything but small little towns. There's really hardly a phone signal through most of the state. It's really remote, really barren, but Wyoming, beautiful state, but also really empty. All right, we're about to get real deep as we get into the top 5.
Okay.
Number 5 is southeastern Oregon. For an area about the size of New Hampshire, there's a grand total of about 20,000 people there. It's just mostly wide open and very remote.
Is that it?
And it's not the most...
Wait, what is this? It looks like icy sand. Yo, it looks cool.
Spectacular scenery in the world. It's mostly high desert, but it is very pretty. But it isn't the high elevations that keeps this area from being so, empty. It's the fact that you don't really go through it to get from point A to point B.
Right.
Without there being spectacular scenery, there's not really a lot of people visiting there. So you don't have a lot of people going through it. You don't really have any small towns. It's just truly remote, really wide open. Southeastern Oregon, the 5th emptiest part of the country. At number 4 is northwestern and west central Utah. This is just some almost like barren wasteland. It's just west and southwest of the Great Salt Lake. We're talking the Great Salt Lake Desert here, just flat, open, barren nothingness. And for an area about the size of New Hampshire, you have about 10,000 people that live there. So
wait. You're telling me the whole of that area, Utah, is just like this? The whole area? Damn, bro, that's a big area.
Extremely remote. Very few people. This is an area that not even indigenous groups populate because the land is so bad.
Oh,
There's
really?
no water there at all. The ground is just so salty, so you can't grow anything or graze anything there. So it's just empty wasteland, basically. I think it's pretty beautiful myself, but again, northwestern, west central Utah, extremely barren and really empty. At number 3 is central Nevada, and this is a huge area with very few people at all.
Big.
To put it in perspective, the entire state has 2.8 million people. There are 2 million in the Las Vegas area, 600,000 in the Reno Lake Tahoe area,
Wait, how many
and 100,000 living along I-80. So you add all that up, that means there's only 100,000 people in the entire rest of the state, an area about the size of either Maine or South Carolina. Think about it. If you live in South Carolina, entire state, only 100,000 people. That's how few people live in central Nevada.
Wait. It must be a ghost town everywhere.
It's just super empty. And the fact that it is so empty is why you have some pretty sketchy things going on out there.
Oh, really?
This is where Area 51 is. And I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but there is obviously some pretty sketchy stuff going on at Area 51. And it's in central Nevada for a reason. You also have some nuclear waste dump sites out there. So central Nevada, truly empty, really barren, but it's also really beautiful. At number 2 is central Idaho. And this area isn't as large as the empty part of central Nevada, but there are a few people in central Nevada. There are nobody in central Idaho. So coming from the Bitterroot Wilderness down to the River of No Return Wilderness into the Salmon River area, there are no people, no small towns, no roads. It's completely inaccessible.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, you say no people, but surely people come here exploring, right? Like surely you get people. Maybe no people is no people living there, but if it looks like this is stunning me. I can imagine explorers. Well, bro, it's so weird saying explorers in your own country. But America's that big, you can say that. You know what I mean? If someone said to me, I'm gonna be an explorer in the UK, I'd be like, yo, UK is that close? There's nothing to explore. You know what I mean? You can go and see things, but yo, you might actually come across things here that no one's ever seen before.
And with the exception of some
could be aliens.
Deep parts of some unexplored caves, there's really nowhere else in the U.S. where you can find parts where no human being has stepped on except for central Idaho.
Oh, wow.
If Bigfoot exists, he's going to be in central Idaho. There could be all kinds of stuff going on there that we don't know about. It's just so empty, so incredibly remote.
Mad.
Also extremely beautiful, but with no people there, it's also extremely empty. And I'm sure it'll be a huge shock to you to learn what the number 1 spot is, but of course it's Alaska. It's more than twice the size of Texas with a population of about 700,000, half of which live in just the Anchorage area. The vast majority of the state is really empty and barren. Even native groups didn't really inhabit most of the state. There are very few roads in the entire state, almost all of which are in the southeastern quadrant. You have to take, little bush planes and float planes throughout the state to get from one place to the other. It's just so remote. But
yo, I really want to experience the Northern Lights, man. Just chilling out, looking up in the sky and seeing that would be beautiful. The problem about it in the UK, it's happened before, Northern Lights over the UK. But the problem with the UK, it's so cloudy, you can never see them. I've never seen it ever. I think there was one time where people could see it in some part of the UK, like more north, but I couldn't see them.
Yeah, Alaska, obviously
Beautiful.
the emptiest part of the entire country. And there you have it, the 15 emptiest parts of the...
Yo, very interesting though. Very interesting to see like all these big states being so empty. Let me know if any of you guys are from these places. It'll be very interesting to find that out. If you guys did enjoy this, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more content. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/L3WG. If you guys want to check me out with it, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.